President Lee Jae-myung and his Mongolian counterpart have pledged to usher in a new golden era in bilateral ties, adopting a joint declaration to deepen cooperation across a wide range of sectors during their summit in Mongolia. The global AI boom is giving Korea's economy a lift, with the IMF sharply raising its 2026 growth forecast, saying booming chip exports have outweighed the impact of Middle East turmoil, despite the country's heavy reliance on the region for energy. Heavy rain swept across Seoul and the surrounding metropolitan area, snarling traffic and disrupting the morning commute. More showers are expected later tonight before summer heat returns in the days ahead. We begin in Mongolia tonight, where President Lee Jae-myung just held talks with Mongolian President Hosel Hulesuk Uhuna. The summit resulted in a joint declaration outlining ways to deepen South Korea's strategic partnership with Mongolia. Our Blue House correspondent Song Yoo-jin, who's traveling with the president, reports from Ulaanbaatar.
A ceremonial welcome at Ulaanbaatar's Sukhumvit Square marked the beginning of what South Korea and Mongolia are calling a new golden era in bilateral relations. President Lee Jae-myung and Mongolian President Hulesuk Uhuna's first summit on Thursday concluded with the adoption of a joint declaration.
이번 정상회담의 가장 큰 성과는 우리 양국 정상이 한몽 관계의 황금 시대를 함께 열어간다는 공동의 비전을 확인하고 한몽 관계 발전의 지향점을 담은 공동 선언을 채택하였다는 것입니다.
Korea and Mongolia aim to raise bilateral trade to $1 billion by 2030. Last year, the figure stood at just under $700 million. That goal will be supported by a Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, or CEPA, after the two sides reached an agreement in principle. The deal is expected to expand cooperation not only in trade, but also in areas such as healthcare.
We discussed my proposal to pursue the construction of a much-needed second national cancer center in Mongolia through South Korea's concessional loans. We also signed a memorandum of understanding on conducting a feasibility study and advancing the project.
The two leaders also agreed to strengthen people-to-people exchanges. To help achieve that, Seoul and Ulaanbaatar signed an agreement recognizing each other's driver's licenses, making travel and long-term stays more convenient. North Korea was on the agenda as well. Seoul views Mongolia, which was the second country after the former Soviet Union to establish diplomatic ties with Pyongyang, as a valuable partner in its efforts to resume dialogue with the regime.
한반도 평화 정착을 위한 우리 정부의 노력을 언제나 지지할 것이라는 뜻을 밝혀주신 대통령께 다시 한번 감사의 말씀을 드립니다.
Guided by its open, independent, and multi-pillar foreign policy, Mongolia remains committed to promoting international and regional peace and security and to resolving current challenges through dialogue.
A total of 21 documents were exchanged, setting the tone for cooperation across the economy, public health, technology, and culture.
President Lee's trip marks the first state visit to Mongolia by a South Korean president in 15 years. It also comes earlier in Lee's presidency than in any other administration, which the Blue House says reflects the two leaders' commitment to strengthen bilateral ties. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News, Ulaanbaatar.
South Korea's AI-fueled chip boom is proving resilient, with the IMF lifting its 2026 growth forecast as semiconductor exports more than offset the economic impact of Middle East tensions. Kim Do-yeon has details.
The International Monetary Fund has sharply upgraded its 2026 economic growth forecast for Korea to 2.6%. This is a 0.7 percentage point increase from the April estimate. The adjustment closely tracks recent revisions by the Bank of Korea and the OECD, which both raised their growth forecast to 2.6%. According to the IMF's July World Economic Outlook update released on Wednesday, in Korea, growth is expected to rise to 2.6% in 2026 and 2.5% in 2027, buoyed by strong external demand for semiconductors, which dominates the negative impact of the war. With these revisions, Korea's growth trajectory stands as the highest among advanced economies for 2026 and 2027. The report highlighted a remarkable performance in the first quarter of the year. The IMF noted that Korea surprised with a 7.5% growth rate in the first quarter, more than 4 times the 1.8% projected in April, powered primarily by a semiconductor and AI hardware export boom. The agency categorized the country as one of the top 4 net exporters of artificial intelligence hardware globally. In contrast to Korea's upward momentum, the global economic outlook for 2026 was downgraded by 0.1 percentage points to 3.0%. The IMF observed that national growth paths are diverging sharply based on 2 conflicting forces: negative supply shocks from the Middle East war and positive technology shocks from the AI value chain. While the United States held steady at 2.3%, high energy costs dragged down forecasts for the Eurozone to 0.9% and Japan to 0.6%. China's forecast rose to 4.6% on high-tech manufacturing, while the Middle East and Central Asia saw a severe cut down to 0.7% due to energy export disruptions. The IMF also raised its global inflation forecast to 4.7%, urging central banks to prioritize price stability while warning of potential macro-financial instability from sudden shifts in AI market expectations. 김도현, Arirang News.
The Yi administration is pushing against a U.S. congressional report that claims South Korean discrimination against American online retail giant Coupang. Park Chae-ryung explains.
In a press briefing on Thursday, South Korean ambassador to the United States Kang addressed the controversy surrounding U.S.-listed e-commerce giant Coupang.
There has been a shared understanding between the two governments that Seoul and Washington should stably manage the current issue so that it won't burden South Korea-U.S. relations.
Kang's remarks came after U.S. officials accused the South Korean government of unfairly targeting Coupang. The House Judiciary Committee last week issued an interim staff report saying that Seoul has a long history of engaging in economic discrimination against foreign companies, and that Coupang has been a consistent target. A White House official also weighed in following the report, saying that Coupang is being singled out by Korean President Lee Jae-myung's administration. Seoul's foreign ministry said the White House's remarks came as a surprise and that the report was written in a one-sided way. It said that the congressional report only reflects Coupang's claims while leaving out factual information Seoul had provided to the committee. The ministry stressed that the Korean government is handling the Coupang controversy under domestic law and does not discriminate against companies based on nationality. The controversy began last November when a former Coupang employee accessed the personal data of more than 33 million customers. Seoul later imposed more than $400 million in fines on Coupang over poor data protection. This led to Washington accusing Seoul of discriminatory attacks on the American-owned company. Ambassador Kang's remarks appear to be aimed at preventing tensions from escalating. Kang said the embassy will keep working closely with Washington to reduce any possible negative impact on bilateral relations. She added that the embassy will consistently explain the Korean government's position through consultations with the U.S. side. Park Chae-ryung, Arirang News.
Semiconductor stocks have powered much of the recent market rally, both in Korea and overseas. Now they're driving the sell-off, raising the question of whether this is just a temporary correction or the start of a downturn in the chip cycle. For more, we turn to our Kim Junong in the studio. Welcome, Junong.
Great to be here, Dami.
So Junong, let's start with today's market. Today's trading really showed just how volatile the market has become, didn't it?
It was actually. The Kospi today closed up 0.6%. At around 7,200, but swung between gains and losses several times throughout the session. I asked an economist what drove today's moves, but he couldn't point to any single factor, which highlights just how uncertain the market is these days. After hitting a record close above the 9,100 mark, the Kospi has remained as highly volatile. Circuit breakers have already been triggered 6 times this year, with investor fear reaching its highest level since the 2008 financial crisis. Behind much of the turbulence are sharp swings in semiconductor shares, with Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix accounting for more than half of the Kospi's market value. movements in the sector can have an outsized impact on the broader market. Analysts also point to single stock leveraged ETFs as another factor, amplifying the volatility.
Since late May, single-stock leveraged ETFs have helped fuel an overheated concentration in semiconductor stocks, not only in Korea, but across global markets.
You know, Junong, semiconductor stocks have been on a remarkable rally, I must say, but the question is, why the sudden reverse?
Well, that's actually what surprised many investors this week. So this week was expected to boost sentiment with major chipmaker events scheduled throughout the week. But the market reacted very differently. Take Samsung Electronics, for example. The company on Tuesday reported a record quarterly operating profit of around $58 billion. Yet its shares still fell more than 6% that day. SK hynix has also come under heavy selling pressure this month. Analysts say the biggest trigger is uncertainty over the memory chip cycle. Until now, the sector's strong performance has been driven by expectations of continued AI infrastructure spending from global tech giants. But rising AI infrastructure costs are raising fears that spending could slow down. That has put pressure on related stocks.
U.S. cloud company Oracle recently warned in its annual report that power and cooling constraints could delay data center construction. Analysts say such delays could weaken semiconductor demand and add to market volatility.
Those concerns are having a bigger impact on Korea's stock market, where chip stocks make up a large share of total market value.
So what should investors keep an eye on from here? I mean, more importantly, how can we tell if this is just a temporary pullback or, like I said, the beginning of a downturn in the entire chip cycle?
Well, it's still too early to tell. The answer is likely to come from a series of key AI and semiconductor-related events scheduled through the rest of this month. Here's what's coming up. Taiwan's chip giant TSMC is due to report earnings in mid-July. Later in the month, SK hynix and global AI giants including Google, Microsoft, and Meta will also release their results. But before that, American Depository Receipts, or ADRs, for SK hynix are set to begin trading on the Nasdaq on Friday. Bloomberg says the offering drew strong global demand, with orders for more than 7 times the number of shares available. SK Group chairman Choi Tae-won is also set to ring the opening bell at Nasdaq, where he is expected to highlight the company's AI chip strategy. The trading debut will give SK hynix access to a broader pool of U.S. investors and serve as an early barometer of sentiment toward Korea's chip sector.
The ADR listing is a positive step. It broadens access for global investors and could reduce foreign selling pressure in Korea, which will give SK hynix a better chance to trade closer to its fair value.
Investors will be watching not only the earnings themselves, but also the AI spending plans that big tech firms unveil alongside their results. Those plans could provide the clearest signal yet on whether the semiconductor boom still has room to run or is beginning to lose momentum.
If big tech signals that AI investment will continue through next year and beyond, semiconductor stocks could find stability again. But if they warn of delays or express skepticism about data center projects, the sector could come under deeper selling pressure.
More answers are expected by the end of the month, but until then, investors should brace for continued volatility.
Right, which is why we need to keep an eye on the upcoming market events. Junong, thanks for coming in tonight.
Thank you.
South Korea's rainy season has officially begun, bringing heavy downpours across much of the country and prompting evacuations nationwide. Our Jo Young-eun has more.
Rain clouds swept into the Seoul metropolitan area on Thursday, prompting the season's first heavy rain warning for the capital. Since Wednesday, accumulated rainfall has exceeded 200 millimeters in the parts of Chungcheongdo region, as southern parts of Gyeonggi-do province also received nearly 200 millimeters of rain. Heavy rain alerts were issued across the capital, prompting Seoul to close access to all 29 riverside streams, while operations at 5 of the 8 Hangang River bus docks were also suspended. According to the Central Disaster and Safety Countermeasures Headquarters, a total of 215 cases of weather-related damage had been reported nationwide in the morning. In North Gyeongsang-do province, a man in his 70s was swept away by a swollen stream overnight and remains missing, and search operations continue. The heavy rain has also forced evacuations, with 423 people evacuated, mainly in the Chungcheongdo provinces. According to the Korea Meteorological Administration, although rainfall eased in parts of the capital during the day, rain is expected until the end of the week.
Later Thursday into early Friday morning, the North Pacific High is forecast to push farther north again, narrowing the rain band and strengthening it into an intense, linear band of heavy rain.
The Seoul metropolitan area and Gangwon-do province are expected to see another burst of heavy rain into Friday, with rainfall rates reaching around 30 millimeters per hour. Once the monsoon system moves away, forecasters say intense summer heat will quickly follow. The North Pacific High and the Tibetan High are expected to build over the Korean peninsula, pushing feels-like temperatures above 33 degrees Celsius and bringing hot summer conditions nationwide. 조영은, Arirang News.
And Korea is racing to stay ahead of increasingly unpredictable heavy rain. As torrential downpours trigger flooding and disrupt daily life, authorities are strengthening flood defenses to better prepare for extreme weather. Shin So-eun has more.
It hardly feels like the rainy season as people shield themselves from the blazing sun with parasols. But a few hours later, a sudden downpour sends commuters scrambling for cover. Instead of the familiar monsoon, which usually settles in for weeks, the weather currently swings back and forth several times a day. According to a weather expert, Korea's late monsoon and swings in weather behavior were caused by cool, dry air lingering over the peninsula, preventing the North Pacific High from pushing north and delaying the arrival of the seasonal rain front.
We're seeing more frequent high-intensity rainfall because there's simply more warm, moisture-laden air moving in from the south. Once it meets the cooler, drier air over Korea, rainfall can intensify very quickly within a short period of time.
I'm standing here on the Pampo Riverside Walkway, but during heavy rain, this area can be submerged within minutes. To prevent another disaster like Gangnam flooding, Seoul has been expanding its water drainage system.
Catch basins at Riverside Path are kept clean to ensure efficient drainage, and warning signs have been installed to restrict public access when rising water levels pose a flood risk. Seoul has also been expanding its underground stormwater tunnel network to store and divert massive volumes of rainwater, a vital flood control system that channels excess water away from urban areas. As rapidly changing weather catches many residents off guard, new services like the eco-friendly Webrella umbrella sharing system are emerging, offering reusable umbrellas that doubles as parasols and rain umbrellas.
It's unpredictable. I don't know when to pack an umbrella or not. But other than like the weather app on my phone, I don't know where else to look at. Yeah.
AI is also effectively used to deliver in-depth analysis and faster warning alerts.
Unlike conventional weather models, now Alpha uses AI to quickly predict where rain clouds will move in the coming hours, improving short-term rainfall forecasting.
Officials advise to stay alert, monitor emergency notifications, and being ready to use flood control measures such as water pumps and flood barriers when heavy rain strikes. Shin So-eun, Arirang News.
Korea's Supreme Court on Thursday upheld the 7-year prison sentence against former President Yoon over charges linked to obstructing attempts to arrest him following his short-lived martial law declaration in 2024. Justices dismissed appeals from both Yoon and the special counsel, rendering the sentence final. Now, in their ruling, the justices also upheld findings that Yoon distributed false information to foreign media and infringed on the deliberative rights of several cabinet members who were unable to attend a key meeting before the declaration. Yoon's legal team has said it will mount a separate constitutional challenge to the ruling, while he remains in custody facing several other pending trials, including a separate case on insurrection charges. Korean defense shipbuilding is making waves at RIMPAC 2026 as foreign warships built here in Korea showcase their capabilities. Our Kim Bo-kyung tells us more.
They may fly foreign flags, but they are made in Korea. At Rim of the Pacific 2026, what caught the Defense Press Corps' eyes were foreign warships built by South Korean shipyards. One of them was the HMNZS Aotearoa, the Royal New Zealand Navy's largest fleet replenishment vessel, which was built by HD Hyundai Heavy Industries and delivered to New Zealand in 2020. Another vessel attracting attention was the Philippine Navy's newest 3,200-ton frigate that looks so similar to the ROK Navy's 3,100-ton frigate Daejeon, also taking part in RIMPAC.
I'm on board one of the Philippines' newest frigates, BRP Miguel Marbar. Built by a South Korean shipyard, it serves as a frontline combat ship in the Philippine Navy.
Also built by HD Hyundai Heavy Industries, it entered service in May last year. The ship's commanding officer says he has witnessed her great capabilities.
So far, we have not encountered any problems about the ship. It has a very nice capability, very good seakeeping, and it's the seaworthiness and the design is so far so good. The Korean shipyard really have a good design for this frigate.
When asked about the reason behind choosing the South Korean shipyard, the commanding officer underlined its speediness and support.
So it was constructed fast, and then we were able to commission our ships on time. And then the Korean defense companies were really supportive for us when it comes to the sustainment and other related matters, training and everything.
Already operating around 10 Korean-built warships, the Philippines signed a deal last December for 2 additional frigates, again proving what made in Korea means. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News, Honolulu.
Seoul was under its first heavy rain advisory of the summer earlier today, but it has since been lifted. Rain will gradually wind down across the Chungcheongdo provinces and areas farther south tonight. But across Seoul and the northern regions, it'll keep coming through tomorrow morning. So tonight is when you really need to stay alert. Torrential downpours could develop very quickly in these areas. From here on out, the heaviest rain will target eastern Gangwon-do province, where some places could pick up more than 150 millimeters of rain, while the central regions, including Seoul, could see more than 120 millimeters of rain. Meanwhile, heat advisories are in effect across much of the Gyeongsang-do provinces and Jeju Island. And warm overnight temperatures continue in parts of the Gyeongsangbuk-do province and Jeju Island as well. Another round of showers is on the way for the central regions tomorrow, so be sure to keep your umbrella close. Once this round of rain moves out, get ready for the heat to ramp up again. Now here's a look at the weather around the world.
That is all we have for tonight. I'm Kim Dami. From all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and good night.